So I've been doing a lot of videos lately about getting an ex back and what to do in that scenario. And often we talk about the no contact rule to get an ex back, because that is usually the very best way to get an ex back if you have been dumped by them. But if you've been doing that and it's not working, they're not reaching out, you're not hearing from them, what do you do then? That's what we're talking about today in this video. Hi, I'm Jeff Campbell from DivorcedParentsClub.com, and I'm glad you're here with me. So the no contact rule is indeed when you go no contact whatsoever with your ex for, I would say, 30 to 45, maybe even as many as 60 days. You go no contact, you're not initiating any contact with them whatsoever. No calls, no texts, no stalking them on social media, no commenting or liking on their social posts. It's as if they don't exist in your mind. That's what you want them to think. Now, of course, if they reach out to you, you do want to respond in most cases. There's one caveat to that though, and I'm going to cover that a little bit later in the video. But most of the time, if they reach out to you, you want to assume that they want to see you and you want to take action. You want to seize that opportunity to set a date with them to get together. But if you're not hearing from them and it's been at least 45 days, you're probably starting to panic. You're probably getting in that frame of mind where you're like, what if they never reach out to me? What if they don't want me back? What do I do? And if that's the case, there's really four main reasons why they may not have reached out yet. The first is that they're not over some kind of hurt that you put them through. Now, of course, we are talking about a case where they dumped you, but there could have been a very good reason why they dumped you. Maybe you cheated on them, or maybe you did something else. Maybe you've got a quick temper and you were always losing your crap with them and things like that, and they just had enough and they walked away. And if that's the case, they might not be over that hurt yet. You hurt them. Hopefully you did apologize for it, take steps to correct the behavior. If you haven't, you probably should do that, even though you're in the middle of the no contact rule. You do want them to know that you're sorry, and more importantly, you do want them to know what steps you are taking to address the behavior issue in you so that it doesn't manifest itself again in the future. But some things like cheating are going to take time to heal. That is a deal breaker for a lot of people, but it doesn't have to be. But the important thing is that you own that behavior. You didn't try and justify it or come up with some excuses as to, well, if you hadn't been so distant and uninterested in sex, you wouldn't have driven me into the arms of the other woman and things like that. You don't want to justify cheating. There's no justification for it whatsoever. Doesn't mean that they didn't contribute to the problem, but cheating is never the answer to a problem in a relationship. The next thing is that sometimes ego prevents us from reaching out, especially if they dumped you. They now have to go back to their family and friends and to be like, well, I decided to give them another chance after they've been trash talking you probably. And, that's a blow to the ego. And to say that, well, you know what, I screwed up by dumping you. I really wish I hadn't done that. Will you take me back? That takes a lot of cojones, as they say. And it takes a big person to put their ego aside and to be that honest and that vulnerable. And a lot of people don't want to be that vulnerable because they fear getting rejected. They fear that if they put themselves out there like that for you, you're going to say, no, I'm sorry, you blew it. See you later. That's what they're afraid of. Even if you've told them that you want them back or you hinted at it before you went no contact, they still have that fear of rejection and that ego. So that could definitely be a reason why they haven't reached out yet. The next is that maybe they're trying to move on with their life and maybe they're dating somebody. Maybe they're already in a serious relationship with somebody. That still doesn't mean that you couldn't have a future with them. Lots of relationships end and then one or both people jump into a rebound relationship that comes crashing and burning, I'd say anywhere from 30 to 90 days after it begins. So it's not a total deal breaker for your reconciliation if they are in a new relationship. But if they are, they probably are focused on that for right now, and I wouldn't expect to hear from them until that relationship ends. And if it's a rebound, meaning if it was started very quickly after your breakup, chances are very good, maybe as much as 70%, that it will end. But don't expect to hear from them until that happens. And then the last one, and I've talked about this in other videos as well, the last one is if they have an avoidant attachment style. That means they keep everybody at arm's length because they've learned over time from a childhood trauma that that's the best way to keep themselves safe emotionally. Just never let anybody in. And if that's their style, it could take 7, 8, 9, 10 months or a year or more before they circle back to you because the fear that they have of being in a relationship with you, because avoidants tend to fear being smothered and being with people that are too clingy and needy, that fear has to go away and then their level of trust in you has to come back up again. Then their desire for you will start to come up again too. They'll start to remember the good times that you had together. When they're in that angry or fearful state, they're mostly remembering the bad things, and they're often fabricating or exaggerating those bad things to really paint you as a villain in their mind to justify why they decided to leave you. And all of that nonsense has to go away before they're going to start to miss you. And with an avoidant attachment style person, that could take a long time. Like I said, 7, 8, 9, 10 months or more. So if it's been over 60 days since you went no contact, should you break no contact? In other words, should you abandon that strategy and reach out? And the short answer is no. I don't think that's a good strategy. If they're ever destined to come back to you, you do want it to be because their attraction and their curiosity about you increased. And that won't happen if you're bombarding them. And if they're not destined to ever get back together again with you, then reaching out's not going to make any difference anyway. So don't initiate contact after 60 days if you haven't heard from them. It's just not going to really get you anywhere, and it could potentially make you look a little weak and pathetic, and then that is not going to attract them back to you. In a minute though, I am going to cover the things that you should do if the no contact rule isn't working, so stick around. Sometimes an ex will reach out to you, but it's not very romantic. Now, of course, if you've got kids together or something like that, you may be talking about the kids, you might be talking about bills, things like that. I'm not talking about that scenario. And in that scenario, it's virtually impossible to actually go no contact, but you can go as minimal as possible and just stick to the business matters. But what if they reach out to you about something like, hey, switch on my disposal's not working. You know where the reset button is. Something like that. They're kind of reaching out, but it's not really terribly romantic. Doesn't really express any interest in you. Now, if they said, hey, I'm having a problem with something, can you come over here? That's a little different. I'm not talking about that scenario. I'm talking about where they're making a comment or asking a question, but it's really benign and not really the kind of thing that could even remotely be construed as romantic. In those cases, I don't want you to be rude really, but I don't necessarily think those kinds of comments are worth responding to. And if you don't respond to them, that could build the curiosity. And that is, again, what we want. We want them to start to wonder about you. Then it will begin to build their wonderment. Well, I wonder why he didn't respond to that. Did he not get my message? Why hasn't he responded to that? And again, that wonderment is a good thing. You want that because that will start to raise the attraction level. So don't respond to every little message like that. Respond to the ones where it seems clear that they want to get together with you. Now, I will say that women very rarely are going to come right out and say, I screwed up by dumping you. I miss you so much. I really want to see you. Can you come over here right now? They're not really going to do that. Now, booty call kind of scenario, that kind of thing could happen. That's not necessarily what you want though, if you want to be back in a relationship with them, but it could be a way back to get your foot in the door, so to speak. But what I'm talking about are messages where there's clearly no romantic intent. Don't respond to those. Real quick before we keep going, hit that like button for me. It really sends a great signal to YouTube. They're going to show my video to more and more people just like you. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. So what do you do if you've gone no contact and it's just not working? First is don't give up too soon. It could take typically at least 45 to 60 days of going no contact before they reach out. And again, that's assuming they're not an avoidant attachment style person. And if they are, it could take a whole lot longer. But check out this video right up here to see exactly how long you can expect that to take. But if it hasn't been at least 60 days, then I want you to resist the urge to give up or to reach out. I know 60 days can feel like an eternity when you're desperately missing them and you desperately want them back. I know it does. I've been in your shoes. I've been there. But if it hasn't been at least 60 days, you got to keep playing the waiting game. Be strong, be resolved, hold to the plan. Next is don't plead or beg or get angry or seem desperate or needy. Don't show those behaviors to her. That is not masculine. It is not attractive, and it's just going to push her further and further away. And if no contact doesn't work, then chances are she doesn't want to be back with you anyway. So why leave her with a negative impression of you? Do start to date other people. Get on with your life. I'm not saying totally abandon the idea of being back with her, but get on with your life. Nothing is less attractive than a guy who's just kind of sitting around, waiting, hoping for the phone to ring, That's pathetic. Get on with your life. Start to date other people. Get out there. Get back to hanging out with your friends, going to the gym, doing the things that you love doing. Have an exciting, happy life. And then post that on social media sometimes and show the world that you are living life to the fullest. And she may get wind of that. She may see that and she may start to wonder, well, has he moved on? Is he in a serious relationship with somebody else? And that wonderment, again, is what we want. We want her wondering about you. We want her to be unclear of what you're thinking, especially with regards to her. That's what we want. And so we want to do things that create that, and we want to avoid things that squash that. And then lastly, don't send flowers or gifts. A lot of guys make the mistake of trying to buy their way back into a woman's heart, and it's just never going to work. It makes you look pathetic. Don't do that. Flowers and gifts do have their time and their place. But when you're on the outs with a woman, trying to buy your way back in is not the time or the place for that. So do not do anything of that nature. You don't want her to come back to you because you're being materialistic and spending money on her anyway. That's not what you want. You want her to come back to you because she desperately misses you. She realizes she made a huge mistake and she desperately wants you back. That's what you want, and you shouldn't settle for anything less than that. And if she doesn't want that, then you need to move on and find someone who does value you. As the saying goes, and I actually have this on my bedroom wall, you deserve someone who thinks you're too valuable to lose. Anyway, I hope this video helps you. And if you have an idea for a future video, leave me that in the comments down below. But for now, I'll see you in the next video.